everybody. As you may know, our video pertaining to this testimony, cross-examination of Daniel Phillip for the U.S. versus Sean Diddy Combs video was taken down. I believe it was falsely removed. So I've been advised to give a statement every time we're going to cover this case, and it'll be very brief. YouTube allows educational content, and this could also include graphic content or things of that nature that could describe certain situations. Reading a court transcript falls under that because it's educational content, and I will be providing context to this educational content. There are no images other than photos of the attorneys involved in the case, but nothing else further. Describing what is happening in court is only to educate about this case. We have not received an update from YouTube since our 24-hour request for appeal. We're hoping for a good outcome because we know we did not violate any community guidelines. But do me a favor, hit the like button, continue to support, because I feel like there is a level of censorship that's happening for smaller channels like myself that are trying to go above and beyond when reporting on this trial. Let's get into this video. So here we are, May 13th. Okay, May 13th is Tuesday. So the day before was opening statements as well as testimony of Israel Flores, a security guy from Intercontinental, and then after Israel, it was Daniel Phillip, the escort, who alleges that he had sex with Cassie and Diddy participated one way or another. Okay. And so May 13 gets here. Now, I think it's important to know because this is what the transcripts noted on May 13th. They had two couple of issues. They had issues with some jurors. Okay. So the first issue was with juror 160. Who, if you followed us when we were talking about jury selection, juror 160 was one of the ones that had to, like, her I'm assuming it's a her, but this juror, let me not assume, this juror had a child that's graduating high school, and so they wanted to be done by June. They wanted to be done with this trial by June, which is interesting because I think they gave time frame wise 8 weeks. June wouldn't be done by June. And so what the judge proposed was that they were going to do longer sessions, okay? That court would be longer and breaks would be shorter in order for them to get done by June. The other juror that they had an issue was with juror 75, who actually submitted a letter to the court, basically said that he takes care of his wife, who is a cancer survivor, and so he's having to travel over here. They didn't excuse him because of that. They actually kept him. The judge is not budging with this, okay? Now, the other issue that came up on May 13th, Tuesday, was the issue of the media and the press. I did a video, I want to say, that Tuesday of last week, where we talked a little bit about the news organization submitting statements, a letter to the court. And so what happened was Tuesday morning, the court and the news representative actually spoke. There was a lawyer there for the news, for multiple affiliations, I guess. That's what I would assume. And he basically said that we deserve the right, First Amendment, to the material, to the videos. If the court would at least comply with a couple of news reporters, not everybody, and that way they can report back or something. They were trying to get creative. Agnifilo basically said that he was opposed to anything being released because, what would you do with this information? He called these videotapes, that's what he said, that they were basically. What was the New York Times going to do with this? Why did they need to see it? So they went back and forth on that. They did not decide on May 13th what they were going to do with that. Actually, they left it at the government having to follow up and make a proposal of what they wanted to see next. The other thing that happened on May 13th, before the trial started, there was an issue between evidentiary issue, okay, as it pertains to Cassie. Now, Cassie, May 13th, at the very beginning, She hadn't testified yet, right? She would have testified later on. We were still on Daniel Phillips, the escort. I thought it would be interesting to just share a little bit with you guys about what they were going back and forth about evidence specifically. Okay, now let me go right to that, and I'm not going to take too much going into it because it literally this is going to be a long video. It's already a long video. I could already tell, but I want to just get to the meat and potatoes of what they were arguing specifically. So first, on the two incidents, Mr. Agnifilo, we discussed the Rule 404 issue. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, and we discussed this last week, the government agreed that to the extent they opened the door to the introduction of unrelated acts of violence by asking, for instance, Miss Ventura, if she's a peaceful person. I think that was the example given. Then you approach, we discuss whether the door was in fact open, and you would potentially be able to address those incidences. So I guess one of the things that they have on the exhibits about Cassie is that there were instances where Cassie was being violent. Okay. I think an example would be like if you guys remember when there was a recording being played, the recording basically made a threat towards a person, something to the effect of, I will kill you. So on Tuesday morning, they went back and forth on this evidence, and the government and the defense did. Okay, so like for example, the defense brought in the context of a text communication between Ms. Ventura and Mr. Combs. She's in Connecticut at her brother's birthday party at a bar, and he's in a separate state. He is upset that she is not answering the phone, and this relates to their arguments about his suspicion that she is cheating on him. In response, she's not answering her phone and eventually says that she did not answer because she got in a bar fight and tried to kill someone. So this relates to their arguments about his suspicions that she's cheating on him and her response to that. It relates to her, in addition to her substance use and abuse outside of the context of their sexual relationship. And in fact, in another state, with her family nearby and her support network and his knowledge of her continued substance abuse. So it all relates to the context of this conversation and their continued arguments. The government's argument is that the violence stems from their sexual relationship, and a large part of the cross examination is going to establish that this is not true. It's related to infidelity and drug use. So the court was like, you're not trying to introduce evidence about Miss Ventura's character or character traits. And then they respond, well, in context of this conversation, it's relevant whether or not she's in fact got into a bar fight. But the fact that she told Mr. Combs that and he believed that and understood that is relevant. The defense further argued, I believe the government is trying to argue that Mr. Combs was forcing Ms. Ventura to take substances, and that was the way she was introduced into participating in their sexual activity. And a large part of the cross-examination of the defense will be that Miss Ventura independently took substances on her own. And this shows that she was taking substances in such a way and to such a degree that she was acting erratically, nowhere near Mr. Combs, and in fact, another state and surrounded by her family members. And Mr. Combs knew all of this because it's in the context of the conversation and her telling him this. So the government had objected to this. The court overruled it. This is why we got a little bit of this on Tuesday. So just giving you guys some insight about the different things that were being argued. I mean, the government had issues with the defense opening statement, which basically the government said they're making generalizations about her having choices, her not having choices, and all that stuff. So much so that Miss Shapiro had to even answer, okay, the defense. The statements made in opening were of a general nature as to overall defense, and all of these exhibits are very specific statements regarding very specific alleged incidences. So again, applying more rules and laws as to what is appropriate. But anyways, they bring in Phillip Daniels, the escort, who we are about to finish up what he had to say. So we're about to finish up. The last we saw was Xavier Donaldson cross-examining him. He didn't get to finish, so we know that he gets to finish before Cassie comes in. Cross-examination continues by Mr. Xavier Donaldson. Good morning, sir. Good morning. If we can briefly, I just want to go back to what we talked about yesterday. Finish what we talked about yesterday. Sure. Regarding the first meeting at the Gramercy Park Hotel, do you recall that? Yes. I believe you said yesterday on direct. I believe you said on direct that you left and then returned back to the hotel, correct? Yes. And you returned back because Cassie called you to come back, right? Yes. And at that time when you came back, you stayed for approximately 1 or 2 hours. Is that right? For a few hours, yes. And I believe you said on direct that during the time of this Gramercy Park Hotel visit, Mr. Combs was not saying anything, correct? During which time? During the first time or the second time? During what time are you referring? I didn't say he didn't say anything. He did speak to me. Well, you and Miss Ventura, Cassie, were having. Mr. Combs was quiet in the corner, correct? Correct. And so, for those 2 hours of you having Cassie Ventura at the Gramercy Park Hotel, it would be fair to say that Miss Ventura took the lead in the. No, you took the lead. We were equally just doing our thing. I wouldn't say there was a leader. Miss Ventura and you decided on what positions you would of those few hours, correct? Correct. You and Miss Ventura decided together what type of would have with those few hours, correct? Correct. And on that time period when you were with Miss Ventura at the Gramercy Park Hotel, she wasn't drunk, correct? Correct. She did not appear high, correct? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? She did not appear to be under the influence of any narcotics, correct? Correct. And you did not see her consume any alcohol, correct? Correct. You did not see that her take you did not see her take any drugs that day, correct? Correct. So from your perspective, for those 2 hours that you were having with Miss Ventura, it's fair to say she was in complete control of everything she was doing, correct? I cannot say that. Now, you also said on this first time with Miss Ventura at the Gramercy Park Hotel, you did not wear a correct. And she did not ask you to wear a correct. And it's fair to say that you did eat that day, correct? Correct. Uh Now, after you left the Gramercy Park Hotel, I believe you said on direct that you spoke to your boss. Is that correct? Correct. And when you spoke to your boss, you learned that Miss Cassie Ventura paid for the hotel visit with a credit card, correct? Correct. So at this point, at the Gramercy Hotel, you knew that, strike that, Cassie Ventura paid for this, gave you cash, correct? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? At the Gramercy Park Hotel experience, Cassie Ventura gave you cash, correct? Correct. She also paid for this hotel visit with her credit card, correct? I don't know what she paid for with the hotel. I have nothing to do with that. Well, you did learn from your boss that Miss Ventura paid for this hotel stay with her credit card, correct? That's not correct. She paid for the dancer to her to her with the credit card. I have no idea who paid for the hotel. Strike that. She paid for the dancer from the service with her credit card, correct? Correct. Now, yesterday, you also mentioned an assault that you observed inside of Cassie's apartment. Is that right? Correct. You indicated this assault occurred on 11th Avenue at her apartment. I believe it was 10th West 11th Avenue. Is that correct? I believe it was West End Avenue, but it may have been 11th Avenue. And this assault at her apartment happened after the Gramercy Park experience, correct? Correct. And that was your first time going to her apartment when this assault occurred, correct? I believe so, correct. And in order to get to her apartment, she had to provide you the address for that, correct? Correct. And in fact, I believe she texted you her address to where you were supposed to come, correct? Correct. Now, when you got to the apartment, I believe you said on direct that you was with Miss Ventura prior to this assault occurring, correct? Correct. And this occurred again. You didn't see Miss Ventura in an inebriated state before you, correct? Correct. She didn't appear to you to be under the influence of any drugs before you had sex, correct? Correct. After you all had sex, I believe you said that Miss Ventura was still sitting at a desk on her computer, correct? Correct. And you were sitting in the room next to her, correct? Incorrect. You were sitting somewhere near her. I was sitting behind her. You were sitting behind her in a room while she was on her computer, correct? Correct. And this was after you had already had the sex that you all had. Correct. And so at this point, she was just doing something on the computer and you were just having a conversation with her. Incorrect. I was just sitting there. So you were just sitting there and she was doing something on the computer? Correct. At some point, you heard her yell for Mr. Combs saying, "Hey, babe, come over here," correct? Correct. And Ms. Ventura responded, "Hey, I have all my personal information on the computer. I'll be there in a second." Correct? Correct. And then you're saying that at that moment, a bottle flew past her head and crashed against the wall. Is that correct? Correct. And then Mr. Combs came outside and grabbed her by her hair and neck and took her back to the room. Is that right? Grabbed her by her hair and dragged her by her hair into her bedroom. Yes. And then at some point, you're still sitting where you were sitting, correct? Correct. And then after you were here, this commotion in the bedroom between Mr. Combs and Cassie, I believe you said on direct, he comes outside to where you were and looks at you and says, "Are you ready? Is that right?" He said, "Are you guys ready to continue somewhere along those lines?" And that is what he said to you after you're saying the assault occurred, correct? Yes, correct. Isn't it true, Mr. Phillips, that after this assault occurred, Mr. Combs walked outside to you and you said, "You've got to get out of here. You got to go"? I don't recall that. Isn't it true that when he walked outside after this assault, Mr. Combs looked at you right in your face and said, "Yo, man, going to have to deal with this. You need to get the fuck out"? No. Do you recall yesterday? I asked you whether or not you had a conversation with law enforcement officers in December of 2023. You indicated that you did, correct? Correct. And you indicated yesterday that you had this conversations with law enforcement officers and they asked you about these events, correct? Correct. And they asked you about this assault as well, correct? Correct. And you told them what happened with this assault, correct? Correct. And you told them what you said in response to this assault, correct? Correct. Isn't it true that on December 18th, 2023, and let me document that there's a typo here, I believe from the court reporter on the year. This doesn't make sense, but I'll continue reading. Isn't it true that on December 18th, 2023, Combs exited the room and threw a bottle of liquor towards Ventura? Combs then slapped Ventura in her face, grabbed her by her hair, dragged her into the bedroom. Phillips could hear Combs continued slapping and hitting Ventura. Combs eventually came out and told Phillips, "Yo, man, going to have to deal with this. You need to get the out." Phillips left and blocked Ventura. Objection, Your Honor, to reading a document, not an evidence. That's sustained. Isn't it a fact that on December 18th, 2023, you told law enforcement agents that after Mr. Combs assaulted Miss Ventura, that Mr. Combs told you, "Yo, man, you need to get out"? I do not recall that. Can you please put up 3574, the parties and the witnesses only, end of the page 3, beginning at page 4? Could you highlight where it ends? Ventura states at the top, end of page 3, right there. Court intervenes. Mr. Donaldson, are you attempting to refresh the witness's recollection? Yes, I am. You should just ask him to read what you presented and ask him a fresh question, not referring to the document. I am. Mr. Phillip, Mr. Donaldson continues. Yes, I'm showing you a single page document with highlighted portions. I see it. I would like you to read that portion to yourself. I've read it. Does that refresh your recollection as to what you told the agents on December 18th, 2023, after you indicated that you observed an assault, and what Mr. Combs told you after that? I do not remember saying that, no. You do not remember telling the agents. You do not remember saying what? What I am reading here. That objection. Ms. Comey objects. While the objection happens, Donaldson is still questioning. That Mr. Combs told me to get out. The court intervenes. Hold on. We're going to strike that last answer. The jury should disregard it. Mr. Donaldson, please ask your next question. Mr. Donaldson says, May we approach, Your Honor, please? 1 second. Comey responds, may I confer with counsel, Your Honor? The court says, you may. Counsel confer. Mr. Donaldson comes back. Mr. Phillip, yes. You not recall, but well, do you recall dating a model by the name of Malia? I never said I dated her. She was a friend of mine. Do you recall having a friend named Malia? Malia? While you were with this friend Malia, would it be fair to say that you were walking by a dream hotel here in downtown New York and happened to see Miss Ventura outside of that hotel? Yes. And when you saw her outside of the hotel, outside of the dream hotel, she was not with Mr. Combs, correct? Correct. She was with some other friends, correct? Correct. And you were walking with your friend Malia, correct? And you and Miss Cassie Ventura made contact with each other, correct? Objection. Miss Comey objects. Objection to the form. Well, did you, at the time when you saw Cassie Ventura outside the Dream Hotel, say anything to her? No. Did she say anything to you? No. Did you say anything to Malia about Cassie Ventura? Yes. And you told Malia about the relationship that you had with Cassie Ventura, correct? Malia already knew about the relationship I had with her. She knew because you told her, correct? Correct. And you told Malia that you were and Cassie Ventura had been seeing each other socially. Is that fair? Objection, Miss Comey objects. To hearsay, Your Honor. I'm asking what he told her. The court responds. It's overruled. Correct. Daniel Phillip answers. And then after you saw Cassie in front of the hotel, the Dream Hotel, Cassie then called you later on, correct? Correct. And Cassie called you later on and said she wanted to get together with you to have another experience. Would that be fair to say? She asked me to meet her, and she asked me if I was available. She asked you, were you available to meet her to have another experience? Correct? Incorrect. Okay. And you thought when Cassie called you, you thought she was calling you to come and see her for a one-to-one? Is that correct? Correct. And when you say you thought she was calling you for you to come and see her on a one-to-one, you meant one-on-one regarding a counter, correct? Correct. So, and this had nothing to do with Mr. Combs, correct? I don't understand that. Well, you saw Cassie Ventura in front of the Dream Hotel, correct? Correct. She wasn't with Sean Combs, correct? Correct. And then Cassie called you, correct? Correct. And then you presume that Cassie was calling you for a one-on-one between you and her, correct? Incorrect. Now, yesterday you also mentioned something about hearing a argument, a yelling at the Essex Hotel between Cassie and Combs. Do you recall testifying that? Yes. Now, in that particular situation, again, Cassie called you and asked you to meet her at the Dream Hotel. Is that right? Correct. And then she canceled and said meet her at the Essex house. Correct? Correct. So then you went to the Essex house. Correct? Correct. And you and Cassie had sex at the Essex house. Correct? Correct. And once again, you did not observe Cassie to be under the influence of any narcotics, correct? Correct. You didn't observe her to be drunk, correct? Correct. And you didn't see her drinking or taking any drugs before you all had sex that day, correct? Correct. And then after you and Cassie had, you then said, well, Cassie and Mr. Combs went to a bedroom together, correct? Correct. And then you heard some yelling and screaming in the bedroom. Is that correct? Correct. And then yesterday you said you saw Mr. Combs run out of the hotel, completely out of the hotel naked, correct? He ran out completely of the hotel with just a towel on. He ran out of the room. And then after that, Cassie then ran to you and jumped in your lap. Is that correct? Correct. And then you said you all started kissing. Is that right? She was shaking uncontrollably, obviously afraid, and we started talking for a while before we ended up kissing each other. Yes. Okay. So let's go to that. So Cassie ran and jumped into your lap, and then you all started talking for a while. Is that right? Correct. And then while you were talking, she started kissing you, correct? Correct. And this is something different than has ever been done before, correct? Correct. And then you started kissing her back, correct? Correct. And then you all started, I believe you said started getting into it, correct? Correct. And when you say getting into it, you all started having sex, correct? Moving in that direction. You got it. Correct, you said? Correct. And this was a different moment than before, correct? Correct. You felt like there was some kind of a bond between you two, correct? I always felt that, but correct. And then at that point, you said Mr. Combs walked in, correct? Correct. And then at that point, you lost your... Correct. So you lost because Mr. Combs was present, correct? Correct. And because his presence made you lose your... Correct. And his presence caused you to have this erectile function? Correct. Now, you also said that you had been with Cassie and Combs for at least 6 or 7 times, right? Correct. And only one of those times you indicated that you saw Cassie under the influence of drugs, correct? That's what you said yesterday. Yesterday you said only one of those times you saw Cassie under the influence of drugs. My hesitation is in your reference to me being with them. I literally was invited to come that day. He opened the door. Sean Combs opened the door. I saw her visibly on the couch, passed out, slumped over on the couch. She looked completely inebriated. Your Honor, Mr. Donaldson directs this statement to the court. Your Honor, I move to strike. There was no question on the Miss Comey speaks. Your Honor, it was responsive. The judge speaks. Overruled. Daniel Phillip continues. And as I saw her on the couch, Mr. Combs said to me, I don't think this is going to happen today. I look at her and I said, yeah, obviously. And I left. Let's go through that. As I said, you were with them several times, correct? Well, in the presence of Cassie and Mr. Combs several times with these experiences, correct? Correct. And that one time you said you saw Cassie under the influence or inebriated in some sort, correct? Correct. And that one time you saw her in this condition, Mr. Combs told you nothing is happening today, correct? Correct. So the one time that you did see her under any kind of influence or under any kind of drugs, Mr. Combs said no to any sexual intercourse, correct? Correct. You said something about a last encounter you had with Cassie and Combs, and there was another man in the room. Do you recall saying that? Yes. In that situation, Cassie again called you to the apartment, correct? Correct. This was at her apartment, correct? Correct. And of course, you arrived at her apartment. Is that fair to say? I arrived at her apartment. Is that what you asked me? You went to her apartment, right? Yes, correct. And when you got to the apartment, there was another male there already, correct? Incorrect. You were there first, correct? Correct. And you and Cassie had already before the male got there, correct? Incorrect. Okay. Would it be fair to say, okay, when the male got there, you and Cassie had sex, correct? Incorrect. Would it be fair to say that you and the male that was there rotated having Cassie Ventura? Incorrect. Would it be fair to say that you watched the male have with Cassie Ventura while Cassie Ventura was with Sean Combs? Correct. Would it be fair to say that during this time period, Cassie Ventura was not under any influence of narcotics? Didn't appear to be so. And would it also be fair to say that she was not intoxicated, correct? I couldn't say that, but it didn't appear that she was. Well, let's do it this way. From your appearance, from your observation of Cassie Ventura on the day she had with Sean, with Mr. Combs, and another person, she did not appear to be under the influence of narcotics, correct? Correct. On the day that you saw Cassie Ventura having with Mr. Combs and another individual male, she did not appear to be inebriated, correct? Correct. You mentioned something about directing Mr. Combs, directing things. Do you recall saying that yesterday? Yes. Now, it will be true that Mr. Combs never gave directions about what positions to use sex with Cassie Ventura, correct? Incorrect. You recall meeting with the federal government, the prosecutors on March 28th, 2025, correct? Correct. And when you met with these federal prosecutors on March 28th, that was this year, correct? March 28th, 2025, you met with the federal prosecutors, correct? Correct. When you met with the federal prosecutors on March 28th, 2025, you spoke to them about your relationship or your contacts with Cassie, correct? Correct. You told them about the sexual intercourse and the actions you had with Cassie Ventura, correct? Correct. And isn't it true that on March 28th, 2025, you told the AUSAs here that you do not recall Sean Combs giving directions about what positions to use to receive. Correct. Okay. So in fact, on March 28, 2025, and today, it is true that you don't recall Sean Combs giving any direction about positions during yourself with Cassie Ventura, correct? Incorrect. Okay, Mr. Phillip. It's fair to say that you believe Cassie Ventura liked you in a unique way, correct? We were becoming friends, yes. You thought that you all were establishing some, I believe you said earlier, establishing some kind of bond together? Correct. Some bond together, correct? Correct. In fact, prior to your last visit with Mr. Combs and Cassie, you thought that you were in a relationship with Cassie, correct? No, incorrect. There were times you were actually trying to get Cassie alone because you were attracted to her and you wanted to be with her. Isn't that correct? I always wanted to make sure she was okay. I definitely was attracted to her, and had she ever given me the chance to date her, I absolutely would have. In fact, on those occasions when they were alone in the bedroom, you were, well, strike that. There were occasions where Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura would go into another room and they would be having sex, correct? I don't know what they were doing in the other room. It is true that you would actually get jealous when you saw Mr. Combs having sex with Cassie, correct? Incorrect. Can I have a second, please, Your Honor? You may. The court allows it. There's a pause. Back to questions. You met with the government on October 7th, 2024 as well, correct? Correct. When you met with the federal government on October 7th, 2024, you met with these federal prosecutors here, correct? Correct. And when you met with them, you told them about your interactions with Miss Ventura and your intercourse with her, correct? Correct. And you told them about how you felt about her, correct? Correct. Isn't it true that on October 7th, 2024, you told the federal prosecutors in your meeting with them that Sean Combs would occasionally tell you to go sit on a couch? It's my turn. And then, objection. Your Honor, Ms. Coney objects. The court responds, sustained. Did you not tell prosecutors on October 7th, 2024 that you would feel jealous? Ms. Comey speaks. I'm sorry, Your Honor. The court interjects. Can we have a sidebar? Ms. Comey speaks. Thank you. At the sidebar. So this is a sidebar conversation that the judge and Donaldson and it looks like Agnifilo and Ms. Comey are all having. Okay? All right. Court says, do you have the document like right in front of the jury that you're reading from? Mr. Donaldson responds, I have it to the side so I can read it. I'm trying to make sure the court says, you can't do that. Mr. Donaldson responds, they can't see the document, Judge. It's right in front of the juror. Okay. Ms. Comey interjects. Your Honor, I just realized that Mr. Donaldson had his papers on the bar right in front of the jury throughout the cross-examination. The court says, I'm sorry. There is space limitations. We can adjust that during the break. Agnifilo comes in. Your Honor, Mr. Donaldson speaks. I'll put it on the ledge. Your Honor, Agnifilo interrupts. Put it on the lectern. Agnifilo interrupts. There's a side thing. No, it has a sign, so they can't see it from the side. Ms. Comey speaks. I'll also note Mr. Agnifilo could share space at counsel table directly to the left. Donaldson speaks. I'll do whatever I can do to make sure that the jurors can't see. It wasn't my intention to do that. Just so it's clear about that. Court speaks. Anything further, Ms. Comey? No, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Donaldson says, sorry about that. Small space in court. Side note, clearly. All right, they're back to open court. The court starts. All right, Mr. Donaldson, you may continue when you're ready. Thank you, Judge. Cross-examination continues by Mr. Donaldson. Mr. Phillip, isn't it correct that on October 7th, 2024, the meeting with the federal government, you told them that you would feel that when Sean Combs and Miss Ventura were having sex, you would feel jealous because you liked Miss Ventura romantically? Is that not what you told the federal government and the prosecutors on October 2024 when you were telling them information about your relationship with Miss Ventura? I do not recall that. All right. Ray, could you please put up 3570, page 5? Go down to where it says other recollections. Miss Comey speaks. I want to confirm it's just for the parties and not the witness. Donaldson speaks. Just for the parties, of course. Third bullet point down. Highlight that section, please. Mr. Phillip, I'm showing you a document on the screen. Would you please read the document to yourself and see if that refreshes your recollection that on October of 2024, you told the federal prosecutors that when Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura were, you would feel jealous because you liked Miss Ventura romantically. That does not refresh my memory. What does not refresh your memory? I do not recall saying that to them. But you're not saying you didn't say that, correct? I do not recall saying that to them. I have no further questions for this witness. The court then says, redirect. Ms. Comey comes in. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Mr. Phillips, do you recall yesterday and today on cross-examination being shown reports and notes? Yes. Before defense counsel showed you all those reports and those notes, had you seen them at all? No. Had anyone ever asked you to review those reports or notes? No. Had anyone ever asked you to check whether they were accurate? No. Do you recall being asked about whether you told prosecutors in March of this year that you could not recall Mr. Combs directing you and Miss Ventura about what position to use to intercourse? Yes. Can you explain why you didn't remember that in March of this year, but you do remember that day? Because he, Sean Combs, definitely did directed Cassie to give me and also each other down in certain ways with baby oil and stuff. And so my hesitation is in what would be considered directing you the positions. I don't know if he's referring to actual intercourse or the actual experience altogether. But either way, he was directing us for what to do in terms of touching each other and sex. So let's break this down. Who would direct you and Cassie to rub baby oil on each other? Sean Combs. And who would direct Cassie to perform or Sean Combs? Who would direct you and Cassie to have sex intercourse with each other? Sean Combs. Do you recall being asked yesterday on cross-examination about the timing of when Cassie handed you cash during your first meeting at the Gramercy Park Hotel? Yes. How did the amount of money that Cassie handed you that first night compare to the fee you were owed for your services? Can you repeat that? How did the amount of money that Cassie handed you that first night at the Gramercy Park Hotel compare to the amount of money you were owed as a fee for your services? It was roughly $3,800 more. And overall, of your meetings with Cassie and with Mr. Combs, when you could perform, what were you paid? Anywhere between $700 and $5,000 or $6,000? I'm estimating. I couldn't say definitively. When you could not perform, how much were you paid? Most of the time, nothing. I don't recall if there was a time that they gave me money for times, and that I couldn't have with her. But as you sit here today, to the best of your recollection, did they pay you when you could not maintain an erection and actual intercourse with Miss Ventura? No. Do you recall being asked about your perception of Miss Ventura's level of intoxication and cross examination? Yes. Other than seeing her briefly on the street outside of a dream hotel, did you ever see Miss Ventura outside of the context of meeting with her to have sex in front of Mr. Combs? No. And did you ever speak with her in person outside of the context of having sex with her in front of Mr. Combs? No. Do you recall being asked about on cross examination Miss Ventura calling you after seeing you in person outside the dream hotel? Yes. Do you know who was with when she made that phone call? No. Do you know who she was with every time she sent you a text message? No. Do you know who she was with every time she called you? No. There were times when you texted her and she did not respond. She never responded to my texts, messages, usually. So when you initiated the conversation, did she respond? No. Do you recall being asked about what Mr. Combs said when he came out of the room after you heard him beating Cassie? Yes. As you sit here today, what do you remember Mr. Combs saying when he came out of the room after beating Cassie? I recall him coming out of the room and trying to get us to have sex again, but I could not after that. After that, that was the first time that I started experiencing erectile dysfunctions. When you say he was trying to get us to have sex again, who are you referring to when you say us? Sean Combs. And what, as you sit here today, do you remember Mr. Combs saying to try to get you and Cassie to have sex after he had beaten Cassie? I just recall him asking us if we are ready to go. And after that, did you try to get an erection? I was completely in my head. I tried to engage. I wanted to really hug her, but there was nothing I could do. I was just completely shocked and just completely messed in my head. So no, there was nothing I could do. You said you wanted to really hug her. Why is that? Because she was afraid. I could see that she was afraid. She was really upset. I could see her face that she was crying a lot. So you said you tried to engage. What did you do to try to engage? We got as close to like sitting on the couch next to each other, and I think that she put her hand on me. I'm sorry to ask this specifically. What part of the body did she put your hand on? She went to grab my shoulder. That's how we always started, with an actual hug. Started to hug each other and rub baby oil on each other and stuff. But I was completely messed up. I could not engage in this act. So I want to make sure we have this clear. Mr. Combs told you and Cassie essentially again. Objection. Donaldson objects. Let's rephrase the question. The court says, what did Mr. Combs say to you and Cassie when he came out of the room after beating her? He asked us if we were ready to go. And what did you understand that to mean based on your experience with him in the past? If we were ready to have sex again. And after that, did you and Cassie have clothes on? I don't recall if I had put my clothes on already or not. When you were sitting on the couch, I should say my underwear. My apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt. Oh, no. That's fine. So when you heard this beating, were you in your underwear? Um, I most likely put my underwear on when they were in the bedroom, because I was afraid and I was imagining that it was time for me to, I was about to get kicked out of or something. And so Mr. Combs said something that you understood to be telling you sex again when you were sitting on the couch. What were you and Cassie wearing? I'm pretty much, I was wearing underwear and she was, I honestly don't recall what she had on. She was wearing clothes. It wouldn't have been much, probably like a robe or something like that. But what did you two do to try to engage in sexual activity? She put her hand on me for a couple of seconds, and I recall, I feel like he told me it's time to go now because he could see that I was not, that messed me up. So you were able to get action with Cassie? So you were able to get when Cassie tried to rub baby oil on you. She didn't try to rub baby oil on me after that. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. When she tried to touch you? No. Do you recall being asked about your first interaction with Cassie at the Gramercy Park Hotel during cross-examinations? Yes. And do you recall being asked whether Mr. Combs gave instructions during the first interaction? Yes. Throughout all of the activity during the first interaction at the Gramercy Park Hotel, who was in the room? Myself, Sean Combs, and Cassie. And do you recall on cross-examination being asked about whether there were times when Cassie appeared to enjoy this activity with you? Yes. Throughout all of the sexual activity with Cassie, who was in the room? Sean Combs, myself, and Cassie. And is Sean Combs the same man that threw a liquor bottle across the room when she asked him to wait a minute? Objection. Donaldson objects. It's directly responsive to the line of cross, Your Honor, Comey says. It's overruled, the court says. Is Sean Combs the same man who threw a liquor bottle across the room when Cassie asked him to wait a minute? Yes. Is that the same man that grabbed her by her hair and grabbed her and dragged her to the room? Yes. And is that the same man who beat her and called her a bitch? I didn't see him beating her beyond him dragging her into the room. However, I could hear it, and it is my presumption. Objection. Donaldson objects. Court says that's sustained. The jury should disregard the last sentence of the witness answer. Miss Comey continues. Is that the same man who called her a bitch while you heard her say, I'm sorry, and heard smacking sounds? Yes. Is that the same man who then came out of that same room, and asked you and told you and Cassie, in essence, to have sex again? In essence, yes. Objection. Donaldson objects. Court responds, it's overruled. Ms. Comey says, no further questions. The court, Mr. Donaldson, anything further? Yes, briefly. Recross examination by Mr. Donaldson. Mr. Phillip, you just indicated that when you texted her, you did not receive a response. Do you recall saying that just now? Yes. Can we put the government exhibit B-324, please? That's an evidence. Now, there are text messages between you and Cassie, correct? Correct. And you texted her, correct? Correct. And she responded? Correct. And she responded, correct? Correct. And in fact, on, oh wait, I need my glasses. If we can go to page, oh, 1 second. Go to page 3 of that document where it says, I'm in New York. Do you see that? Yes. Do you see the date? It says July 30th, 2012? Yes. If we can flip 2 pages and go to the next, you see where it says, how long until you're here? Do you see that? Yes. That's Cassie talking to you. Yes. And then you see where it says, was that meant for me? That's you, correct? Yes. All right. The next line says, what's the address? Do you see that? Yes. And then you go to the next page, please. The next line says, I'm on the Upper West Side, so I can meet you within 10 or 15 minutes. That's you, correct? Yes. And then further down in the blue line, it says 10 West End Avenue. Hit me when you're there. That's Cassie, correct? Yes. And that's her giving you the address for her apartment, correct? Yes. So that you can get there, correct? Yes. And so, one second. That's the date that this assault happened, correct? That is the first day you went there when you got the address. Do you remember saying that on cross? Yes. All right. We can scroll down to go to 2 pages over to, now down to the bottom of that page, it says Daniel NYLA. The date is October 12th, 2012. Do you see that? Yes. And flip one more page over. Do you see where it says, don't give that I'm a little tipsy? I love y'all N-words. Do you see that? Yes. So on October 12th, 2012, 3 months after this assault, you sent her a text saying, I love y'all N-words, correct? Yes. And you were telling both of them that you love them, correct? Yes. This is after the assault, correct? Yes. I have no further questions. Thank you. Ms. Comey, response. Brief redirect, if I may, Your Honor. Very brief. Yes. A redirect by Ms. Comey. Why did you send that text message? Because I was trying to get her to respond to my message. She would not respond to my messages. And the only way that I could see if she was okay was to try to bait her into making her and Mr. Combs believe that I had no problem with what he had done. So that they would invite me back so that I could see for myself that she was okay. No further questions. Donaldson responds, move to strike. The court says, on what basis? Non-responsive. Ms. Comey responds, it's totally responsive to why did he send that text? Your Honor, the court responds, that's overruled. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Phillips. Witness is excused. Stay tuned for the next video. This is when we're going to get to Cassie Ventura's testimony on the first day. Guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Of course, we're having to cut these videos a little shorter because they're very lengthy. This one is going to be lengthy as well. The other thing I will say is there's just so much details to this, and we are doing our best to condense it. There's still so much review of documents that we have to do. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Rabbits out. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for the next video. Rabbits out.